Hello again guys, it's Zach here from Z.M.S.C Modelworks, and in today's video we're going to be looking at upgrading the detail to, say, some standard stock kits. So for instance, today we've got a 2007 Lindbergh 1 24th scale Charger Super B, and we've got the stock kit seat here on our right. And as you can see here, this is our upgraded or more detailed version that we've scratch built here on the left. So for not much materials and very little work, it kind of ups the detail up a bit, because when you're looking inside of, you know, kits that don't have opening doors, you can't really see much. So what is visible, you want to kind of bring up the detail a little bit so that it emphasizes the detail on that kit. So for this, you just need a few amount of materials. So for tools, we've got a hobby blade and knife, we've got a drill or pin vise and some drill bits, and we've also got our, you know, just standard standing sticks or files, whatever works. You know, standard thin glue. I also have some kind of homemade sprue goo, which is basically just styrene sprues and tree parts kind of melted by thin acetone or thin cement, MEK, that sort of stuff, and then cut down with some lacquer thinner. The materials are fairly simple. You just need your kit pieces here, some thin plastic card, and some sort of a rod. So either, you know, we've got some thin brass rod here, 32,000ths or 0.81 millimeters. Also got the same sort of size in plastic styrene. So let's go ahead and start building this up for you. Okay, so our first step here is to kind of look at where the headrest, the mold lines are. Some of these are a little bit more difficult because they dip down, but this one's fairly easy because it's just a straight, clean sort of cut from off the top. So from this, what we're going to do is we're going to take our blade, and then we're just going to lightly score the headrest kind of separation line here. You don't need to go super heavy. You don't need to have, you know, a fancy saw blade to get in here and do it. Just a fresh, sharp hobby knife blade will do the trick, because often the plastic up in this area is fairly thin. So going over the front, we'll go over the back, and we'll go over the sides as well, just with very light, thin passes, because we want this cut to be as sharp and as clean as possible. So we'll come back when we've got the headrest removed. Okay, and as you can see now, we've separated the two parts, and we just need to do a little cleanup work. So we're just going to take our sanding sticks here, kind of clean up the edges a little bit. Do the general work with the coarse one, and then come in with the finer sanding stick, and then clean up the small burrs and edges until we've got a nice flat mating surface. Okay, we just take our knife here. We're just going to clean out the burrs from inside, like so. So what we can do now is you can either approximate the size of the piece you need, or I just cut templates out of tape, and we can just simply lightly score the plastic. Because it's thin, we don't need too much. break off our piece of styrene, and then you can either just glue this in with regular liquid cement, or what I like to use is this kind of sprue goo that you can use for many different purposes. It's one of those kind of tools that you can make yourself that really helps in many situations. So as a welder, as a repair, or even as like a layer to build up plastic if you've shaved stuff away. So then, you know, kind of built up a little bit of excess plastic that's going to come out the sides here, which is going to help to correct the overall shape. And then what I like to do is just come in with a little bit extra over the edges here. Just kind of fill that gap up and get a really good strong bond, like so. And then what I'll do is I'll come in with normal thin cement, in this case just straight MEK, and then I'll use it as kind of a burnisher and smooth the rest of it around. It kind of makes it nice and rather than big and blocky, it'll thin and spread out the sprue goo a bit, fill in all those little cracks and make a nice cleaner, it'll be easier to sand, it's going to be cleaner in the end result. So wait for that to completely dry. The MEK does speed up the process a little bit. It is very toxic though, so I don't recommend using it for everything, but it does have its uses. So we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and sand it down and show you where we go from there. And then we're just going to do the same also to the base of the headrest here. Okay, and now that we have those all dried and cured, then we can basically just go in with our sanding file sticks, whatever happens to be the flavor of the day. Just gonna use a little bit more narrow one with a coarser grit here. And then what we kind of do is put our blade here on an angle, following the back, and then just kind of shave that line along, smooth the transition, and then we're not spending hours sanding away. There we go. And then this as well. And then same thing with our headrest. We can just shave off that corner edge, make it easier, smooth the transition out a bit. rough our shape in with a coarse sanding stick. Then I'm just going to take a more soft sponged sanding stick to smooth those harder transitions out from the headrest. Okay, there we go. There's our headrest and the rest of the seat all nicely finished off here. And so we're going to move into the next step. Okay, so our next step here is basically we're going to take a drill bit on a pin vise, or in a drill itself, whichever you have. We're going to get one that matches the diameter of our rod. In this case, we're using a 32 inch brass rod here. Matches the same diameter of the pin, or of the drill bit, sorry. And then we're just going to go ahead and drill our first hole, line up for the second one. There we go. And so then what we can do is take our headrest, and this is all just, eyeballing. It's not completely center perfect. If you want to spend the time on that, by all means. But this is just for, demonstrative purposes, just to get it roughly in the right spot. Just you need a marker here to kind of eyeball and line these up like that. First hole. And there's our second hole. Now, what we can do is we'll take, about 3/4 to an inch long piece of the rod. We're gonna snip that part away. Take this in half, and what I did on the first one was kind of put them into the base of the seat first, because there's actually a little bit of a backing down in there that it can kind of rest on to sit up straight. But just making sure that kind of dry fits okay. I'm going to take some super glue. I have a medium here. Thick would be, I think, would leave some unwanted residue, whereas the thin might not hold the sides of the wall properly. And we're just going to kind of line it up, make sure it's straight here while it dries, and then just leave that up. You're not going to have your headrest all the way up here. You're just going to leave a little bit so that it sticks out and can provide a secure mounting for the upper headrest. And the same thing with this bottom one. We're just going to put a little bit, not directly on the plastic, but on the kind of the rod there. And then as we bring it in, we'll just kind of spin it around so that it coats the entire side of our mounting hole. And this one dries relatively quickly, so it's easy for me to kind of move along at this pace. And then, you know, a couple of dabs here on the upper heads. And then we're just going to line up our pre-drilled holes. A little bit too much on there. And slide her on down. Adjust the head, kind of make sure we've got it straight and at the level we want. And there we go. And now you've got your two sets. You can vary the height of them a bit. Maybe the passenger's a little shorter or taller, you know, whatever you end up using or decide to do. But you know, for 20 or 30 minutes of actual work, minus all the drying time of the sprue goo and stuff on the bases here, you know, you've essentially just increased the detail threefold, and you've created, you know, a good looking piece that will show off well in the model in its finished state. So hope you guys can use this on your own models. I'd love to see what you guys end up doing with it. Remember to make sure to like and subscribe with my channel. There's a lot of you guys that aren't subscribed and you look through. You know, I don't post very often, but when I do, they're usually really in-depth reviews or really cool tips and tricks like this that you don't want to miss out and that you might find useful for a future build. So thanks again for watching, guys, and as always, have a good one.